Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WorldCast Systems webinar. Today, how can technology help FM broadcasters face rising electricity cost? I'm Chris Poulain, president of the company. I've got with me two colleagues, David, who's product manager of the Ecriso portfolio, and Grégory Mercier, director product marketing. So we're going to discuss about the current trend related to the energy. We will, of course, share with you our technology, SmartFM, how it works, explain and detail some customer cases. And very important, at the end of this webinar, I will introduce a new amazing offer. We put together a new leasing offer, enabling you basically to get a free FM Ecriso transmitter because of SmartFM. So stay with us. Next slide. Well, the electricity crisis and the impact on the radios. As you know, we've been dealing personally, businesses, but also in the industry, of a huge price increase. If we look at the prices back in August 2020, the price was around 30 euro per megawatt per hour. In November 2022, the price exceeded 400 euro. And there's some expectation about 2023 where it's going to increase again. So that's a big issue, obviously, for our industry. Why? Because that's the next slide. As you know, in the FM broadcast chain, the main source of electricity consumption is actually the FM transmitter itself. And just to share with you an example, here we focus on the US market. In the US, you have around 11,000 FM radio stations, 6,600 commercial radios. You have also non-profit radios. And if we take the assumption of an average output power of 1 kilowatt with an efficiency of 72% for those transmitters, we end up having a yearly consumption of 135 millions of kilowatt per hour. So again, that's a significant amount of energy that is needed for the radio broadcasting worldwide. So what are we going to look at? David will explain the electricity saving, the different ways of saving on the electricity. Greg will explain SmartFM, our disruptive approach of saving electricity. I will come back and share with you customer studies, customer actually using SmartFM on a large scale, and also the challenges they went through. And at the end, again, we'll discuss about our new commercial offer, our leasing offer. David, go ahead.
Thank you. So let's start with the electricity saving trends on the FM broadcasts. So basically, there is different way to reduce the consumption of the transmitter, both on the hardware side and on the software side. And there is also some process that can change. So if we look first at the hardware side, the efficiency, this is the main way to reduce the electricity consumption of the transmitter, just by increasing the efficiency. So for that, there was a lot of work that was done during the last 10 years, more or less, with new generation of LD MOSFET going from medium, high power, high efficiency to up to 86% of efficiency. Another way was to work on the power supply on the transmitter to get very high efficiency power supply up to 96% today. And another way to increase the efficiency was to improve the design of the RF parts on the transmitter, like the planar design, as you can see on the picture. Now, if we look just as a comparison between an old transmitter and a new transmitter, so old 10 years ago, we got 55% efficiency, more or less, on the transmitters, whereas now we are able to get up to 76% efficiency thanks to the different improvement that I mentioned before. So that's the first way to increase the efficiency and reduce the electricity costs. The second way to reduce the electricity cost is basically to remove equipment on site, just because every equipment has its own consumption. If we remove the equipment, we eliminate the consumption. So there is different equipment that we can remove completely, like a sound processor, RDS encoder, or stereo encoder, just because the feature is now available directly inside the transmitter. And there is other that we can slightly reduce the consumption by integrating inside other equipment like IP codecs, for example. So if we look at the three examples that I mentioned, sound processor, RDS encoder, and stereo encoder, each of them has around 30 watts of consumption, which means that for each program, we can get 100 watt consumption that can be removed. It's not very big on huge transmitter, but for medium power, it's quite significant. Another way to reduce the electricity costs is to modify the way to transmit. Basically, radios and broadcaster tends to use the maximum power which is allowed by regulators, for example, 1 kilowatts, but they can decide to reduce the power, like 1 dB reduction or 3 dB reduction. By doing that, we will see huge savings on the electricity, clearly, because we can reduce the energy consumption by 20 to 45%, but it will also generate a huge impact on the audio quality, on the reception area for the listeners, but also on the RF quality, because the coverage area will be reduced. So that's for permanent reduction. And there is also like a scheduled reduction of power, basically because we want to adjust the power depending on the audience of the listeners. And we know that during the night, the audience is lower. So some radios decide to reduce the power during nights. Here we got some figures that shows that basically when we reduce the power during night, we can get up to 1 megawatt hour reduction per year for 1 kilowatt, which is around 8% to 10%. So it's very efficient in terms of savings, but it also affects the quality. It affects the quality for the listeners. It affects the coverage for the RF propagation, and it's not very high quality, high efficient solution. That's why Greg will explain a new approach, which is SmartFM.
Thank you, David, for this introduction to all the possibilities to save electricity and CO2. Hello, everybody. So in this part, I will try to give you some inputs on SmartFM, how it works, and what are the benefits. So as David just explained, once you have increased the efficiency of your transmitter and your broadcast chain overall by including many features and increasing the efficiency of each part, we will reach a limit. And today, with 96% efficiency on the power supplies, we can guess that there is no much headroom or anything else to save on the power supplies. With more than 85% efficiency on the pallets with the LDMOS technology. Today, we don't expect any innovation on those components in the future to increase significantly this efficiency. So the only remaining way to reduce the consumption on the transmitter is to take an innovative and disruptive approach, and this is the purpose of SmartFM. So to understand SmartFM, because it's new, sometimes it can appear difficult or different. And to well understand it, it's interesting to look at how we developed it in a first instance some years ago. And in this process, in this development process, we took as a priority and as a first criteria not the coverage in terms of power, but the listener experience. So the question is not how much power I have on the field, but more about how these listeners can experience the radio. Can they receive properly, or can they experience some perturbations and things like that? So to do so, we took many listeners. We did some listening tests with different type of programs, and also with different type of perturbations that we know in FM, like noise, multipath, and so on. So this is the starting point for the development of SmartFM, and it's important to understand it because the listener is the key here. Once we have all this data from the listeners about their experience with different content and perturbations, we have been able to classify different contents, different audio contents in categories of robustness. So we are able to say if a content is robust or weak. By robust or weak, what I mean is, does the listener with this content can notice the effect of bad reception on the field, or it will be hidden by the content itself? Masking effect, loudness, and so on will change a lot how you will perceive or not perceive the perturbation that we experience in FM. So we have this statistical approach where we classify the content to know if it is more or less robust. Based on that, we built an algorithm, SmartFM algorithm, by the way, who is able to predict for each content you are broadcasting in real time. Sorry, in real time, we are able to say if the content will be well perceived by listeners, or if perturbation will be noticeable quite soon. Based on that information, in real time, we are able to adjust the RF power dynamically to fit with the need of the program. So if the content is currently weak, we will increase the power to the nominal power. If the content is robust, then we can reduce the power without affecting the listener experience. And especially, I'm talking about the listener experience at the limit of the coverage. Because if you are near from the transmitter, if you lose 1 dB or 2, it won't affect anybody. However, if you are at the limits, this is where it is interesting. And this is exactly what SmartFM is looking at. So here we have an example with a picture of an ECRESO transmitter. This is from our GUI, and this is the RF output power measurement. Usually in FM, for 1 kilowatt transmitter, you will have a 1 kilowatt static line. However, here, as you can see on the picture, we have not anymore a fixed power, but a range of powers up to 1 kilo. And this is what SmartFM does in real time. So the curve on the top represents the maximum power observed during a period of time. And the lower curve is the minimum. The curve in the middle, the white one, is the average. And you can see that the average is moving over time, depending on the content of the radio. Maybe the radio was speech, after it was music, or different type of music, advertisement, or whatever. It's very impressive also to see it in real. So if you can have, or if you have already an ECRESO transmitter and you can try SmartFM, activate it, and you will see the power meter on the front panel and on the GUI moving with your program. It's very interesting to see how it moves with the audio content, and also to observe on the coverage area that there is really nothing that you can perceive while you are doing all those savings. At least this is also the feedback from our customers who use it. Let's move to the next slide. So here is just 1 minute to answer one very usual question that we have. The question is, does SmartFM affect the content? Yes or not? Of course not. And we can see it on the diagram on the left. This represents the program chain from the program source, FM modulation, and then RF amplifiers. And to place SmartFM in this architecture, in fact, it is in parallel. So you can see SmartFM on the left. What SmartFM does is to take a sample of your content, analyze it, and apply the algorithm. And as an output, it will provide a gain, the gain that we can apply on the RF power. In this process, there is no change on the audio. The audio is still on the traditional architecture. However, SmartFM will feed the amplifier with a command saying, okay, now you can reduce, now you must increase the power, depending on the needs for the listeners. So SmartFM, in conclusion, does not affect the audio content. It does not modify it at all. A quick example of the results on the electricity bill and also CO2, of course. So on the left, we have our transmitter. This is the 10 kilowatt transmitter. And if we take as figures for 10 transmitters over 10 years, then we will observe, depending on the program that you are broadcasting, because it really depends on the type of program, between 200 up to 500 megawatt hour savings per year. So this is quite huge. Of course, this is for a network of 10 kilowatt transmitters, 10 transmitters in this case. And if you translate this to this figure to money, then it's quite easy to do the math with 20 cents euro per kilowatt hour. The result is between 36,000 up to 100,000 euro savings per year. So over the product life, we are talking about more than €1 million for such a network, which can be very, very huge saving for your business. To give you some proportion, some ideas, it's when we talk about old transmitter update to a new transmitter, let's say the old transmitter, maybe you still have on your network with about 50-60% efficiency. And when you calculate what are the benefits if I switch to a 70+% transmitter, you know, or maybe you did this step already and you know the benefits. They are quite huge. Well, with SmartFM, by adding SmartFM, the step is more or less in the same range. So basically, if you have an old transmitter, you can double the benefits. And if you already have an existing transmitter, well, you just need to activate it, and there is a big step forward to perform. Maybe today you are losing money every day with your transmitter, and you would save a lot if you switch to a new transmitter plus SmartFM. So, as a conclusion for this part, and if you need to keep in mind 4 key points, the first one would be that SmartFM does not impact the listeners, and this is also the feedback of the many tests from our customers, including a large network. Your savings are huge, up to 40%. This will depend on your content, can be 10, 20, 30, 40. There is no modification on the audio content because SmartFM is working in parallel from the traditional architecture. And to understand properly SmartFM, it's a descriptive approach, and we must understand that what we are doing is moving from a fixed power strategy to a dynamic power strategy. And when you understand that, then you understand that SmartFM does not affect your coverage and does not affect your listeners while performing huge savings. So this is what I could say about SmartFM in few minutes. And now let's see with Chris some challenges that our customers using SmartFM have experienced and how they faced those challenges.
Yeah, well, thank you, Greg, for the explanation and presentation of SmartFM. So indeed, SmartFM has been, I would say, around for a couple of years now. Well, I would say it took a little bit of time to take off. Not a surprise to us because it's a very disruptive technology. So it takes time to explain, to convince, and I would say find the early adopters. However, today, SmartFM is being used on a day-to-day operation in Mexico, in Peru, in Morocco, also in Asia, and of course we have many customers in Europe. And actually, we have also our biggest customer in Germany. I will show that in a minute. So next slide. To start with, we're going to discuss about SFN. SFN is, I would say, a small percentage of the typical FM broadcast installation. However, it is interesting because it is very complex to set up. It is probably the most complex infrastructure when we look at FM, because you have a high risk of perturbations between two transmitters. It's quite difficult to synchronize the audio, so it's touchy and require a lot of expertise. And we were interested to see what would be the impact of SmartFM and to see if actually it works. And we did that with a customer we have in France, and the feedback is very positive. There is actually no changes on the audio delay or RF delay. There is no coverage issue between two transmitters, even when the power is actually reduced. So conclusion here, SmartFM enables to reduce the consumption of SFM networks without affecting the quality of broadcasting. And if we take the example of highway, we're talking about low power FM transmitter, of course, but we're talking about potentially hundreds of low power FM transmitters. So still, altogether at the end, it is good amount of money you can save, including as well the CO2 emission reduction. Next slide is well, the large FM network operators. That's we have many customers in all over the world that are actually using a lot of transmitters to broadcast their signal or the content of their customers. And there might be some I would say challenging when you actually deploy SmartFM. The first one is on-site maintenance to update the system and the configuration. Clearly, if you have Icriso transmitter, you want to use SmartFM. Well, you need to make sure that the version you have is compatible. You might need to upgrade it, get the new firmware, and there's a little bit of setup that needs to be done. So it's a little bit of work. You have to do it. And clearly, if you have a lot of transmitters, it's time. Then the second topic is a test and measurement on site and in the coverage area. Most of the time, as we can see, our customers, they of course go through that step. They want to make sure everything works fine. They want to make sure there is no impact for the listeners. So they do measurement. They want to make sure that does not generate any bad impact, and that's obviously normal. The third topic is a network monitoring system that might need to be updated. Why that? Well, we have customers, they use FM probes to monitor their signals and monitor the RF level. Well, if we use SmartFM, you can see some variation in the power, which might potentially generate some alarms, and in that case, false alarms. So you might need to tweak a little bit the threshold for the probe and for the NMS. And the last point is the validation with their customers and validation with their listeners. Again, that is based on our experience, what we've seen with our large customers rolling out and using SmartFM. They went through different steps, started with a couple of transmitters, put SmartFM on the air, and they decided to wait for a couple of weeks to see if, for example, any listeners would call or complain. And of course, it was not the case. So then they said, okay, it's okay. There is no issue. There is no impact. There's no listeners complaining. So we're going to roll out. And of course, as a broadcast operator, to use SmartFM, you usually need the go from the radio station itself, provided the content. So all this is time and resources, but it is worth it considering the amount of money and CO2 you can save. Let's discuss about uplink. As I was mentioning, when you roll out a disruptive technology, you need to find early adopters. And we can tell that uplink was our best early adopter on a large basis. They are the biggest network operator in Germany when we look at FM. They have more than 800 ICRISO transmitters from 100 watt up to 10 kilowatt. They are broadcasting public radio, such as Deutschland Radio, and also commercial radios. Something typical in Germany, I have to mention, is the MPX power regulation. The MPX power level is regulated, and you cannot go above 0 dB. This is important because it does basically impact SmartFM and the electricity saving. We will look at that in a few seconds. Today, they have implemented SmartFM with more than 400 ICRISO transmitters, and they are still rolling out SmartFM. And by the end of the year, the entire fleet of the 800 FM transmitters will be using SmartFM. It's been more than, I would say yes, almost a year that they've been using the technology, and already the feedback we get from them is they save between 15 and 20% on the energy. So as you know, we advertise up to 40, so it's only half of it, and it is again due to the fact that there is this MPX power regulation, and also the fact that most of the audio content is mostly talk and classical music. And clearly, this also, I would say, has an impact on the saving. However, 15-20% when you have 800 transmitters, when they have about 10 kilowatt, and the price of the energy and the electricity in Germany is pretty high. We're talking here about a lot of money on a yearly basis. So it is clearly a significant amount of money they can save. Next slide. So let's talk about the commercial offer. What is the price of SmartFM, and how do we sell it? First of all, to start with, SmartFM is only available with ICRISO transmitters. ICRISO has been around for decades, and SmartFM is only available with I would say, the generation we introduced in 2012 or at the end of 2011. So from 100 watt up to 10 kilowatt. And of course, so here we're talking about 15,000 basically compact FM transmitters that have been already rolled out. At any time, those customers using iCriso transmitter can activate SmartFM if they have the proper firmware version, and of course, if they get the license. And with the new AIO series, which we actually introduced in Amsterdam last year in September, so we are starting with the 600 watt and the 1 kilowatt. SmartFM is obviously available as well. Then, when we look at the licensing model, first of all, very important, when you acquire an iCriso transmitter, whatever the power is, you can evaluate SmartFM as it is basically available for a period of 3 months. So you just need to activate it using the GUI, and you can try it, you can benefit, you can look at the savings, you can go on the field, do your own analysis, field test, enabling you to find out how much money you can save. And if you're happy, and if you have the go from your management, then, or your customer, if you're a network operator, you can then come back to us and buy a license, which is either an annual license or a perpetual license. So we have both scenario possible. And as you can see, for the 100 watt, the low power, very low power, SmartFM is included, and it is free of charge. Next slide, and let's now look at this new commercial offer, which in our opinion is, well, clearly unique in the market, and the best offer we ever put together in the company. Basically, why are we putting this offer together? With SmartFM, you can save a lot of money. We've seen that. However, you need an iCriso transmitter. And well, many radio stations or broadcasters, we have customers, but we have also competitors, and you might use another brand. Okay, so that means if you want to benefit of SmartFM, you will need to acquire a new transmitter. You will need to acquire an iCriso transmitter, and you might not have the budget available. I mean, there is an investment, especially if you have a big network. 50, 100, 200 transmitters. We're talking here about quite a big amount of money. So what about if we could actually finance it? That's what we put together with this new leasing offer. So next slide here, let's look at this new offer. It's available on the iCriso FM transmitters, clearly. The benefits, well, you can replace an old transmitter with a brand new one, an iCriso, very efficient. And we say 5-star because, well, there's a lot of high quality features, I would say. We're talking about high quality product, digital exciter, great sound, a lot of features built in. And you can pay the loan with the electricity savings generated with this new generation transmitter. So that's the beauty of the offer. What you're going to pay on a monthly basis, you're going to save with SmartFM and the transmitter. And at the end of the contract, the transmitter belongs to you. If we look at the conditions, so no upfront cost, 0 down payment, 60 months contract, 5 years. On top of it, clearly included SmartFM. You have also the KBO monitoring. KBO, by the way, is the name for our network management solution. So we have an instance running in the cloud. You just need to connect to it, and then you can monitor 24/7 all the parameters of your transmitter and your fleet of iCriso transmitters. 60 months warranty, that's another thing. When you buy a transmitter, iCriso, usually you have 3 years warranty. Here you get a coverage for the entire duration of the contract, and you get also firmware update and support included in the package. So that's a great deal. Now, if we look at the price, here we're showing only the price for the 1000 watt, and please don't hesitate to contact us if you want to get the pricing for the higher power. We're talking about 130 euro per month for the latest AIO series 1 kilowatt. 130 euro per month for a period of 5 years. And on top of it, if you want to activate and use the built-in 5-band processor and the RDS encoder, that's an additional 30 euro per month. And if you want to use also the built-in APT audio over IP decoder, it's an additional 25 euro per month. Next slide, we're going to look at the model and the cost at the end for you. As I said, €0, $0 US upfront. That's a starting point. You pay 130 euro per month for a period of 60 months. But you're going to save some money because of SmartFM. And let's take an example. If you pay 40 cents for the kilowatt per hour in your country, we know that basically you're going to save between 60 euro and 180 euro per month. Again, it depends of the content. This I cannot tell. If it's classical music, it will be probably around 60, 70, 80. Talk, maybe 100, 110. It's music, highly dense music. It will be higher than that. Again, we need to do the testing. But you can see that quickly you can reach a break-even. So you pay 130, and easily you can save 130. And of course, if you pay 50 cents or even higher, 60 cents, I've heard some countries where the kilowatt per hour is even 70 cents. Insane. Well, you can see you can save a lot of money. You're actually positive. So you get a new transmitter, fully covered in terms of firmware update, warranty, a lot of features, high quality, basically free of charge. You just need to install it. So that's a great deal and a great offer that we're putting together in the market. We're at the end of the webinar. I hope you enjoyed. Please feel free to come back to us, to contact us, to discuss, ask your question, and I will be happy to help you with your project. And see you soon. Thank you.